Hello guys, welcome to second part of app series. In this video we will be designing the stopwatch app. So let's start. Now open your Android Studio and let's create a new project. Select empty activity, click next. Now let's change the name to stopwatch. Now click finish. Now as you can see our project is ready, but we have to import some files like fonts, drawables that we can use in our project. For this I have on desktop, so let's move it inside the project. So here I have some fonts, reload, pause and resume SVG files and illustration. So first copy the fonts and paste it in the resources. I will provide them in the source code. Now let's copy the illustration and paste it in the drawables. So now as you can see we have fonts, drawables, and now we have to import the reload, pause and resume SVG files, and we will be doing it in the project. Let's open the project and go to app. Select vector assets, select the local file. Now we have to choose the SVG files which are on the desktop. Here is the pause SVG. Now click finish. Now let's do for another one which is reload, and the last one is resume. Now we have imported all of the assets that we will be using in our project. Now it's time to go to layout and design the structure. Now let's remove the text and let's change this constraint layout to frame layout. So before moving forward, we have to change the action bar to no action bar and also use the colors. So go to value and here go to theme. First we have to change the dark action bar to no action bar, and now go to colors. Now here we will use some colors. So for colors, first one will be the start button. Now let's copy this and paste it 3 times. Let's change the start button color to resume, pause button color. Also the third one to text color. Now let's change the values. So now we have changed the colors. Now let's move on to theme, and here also change this to start button color. Same goes for that and same for this. Now we are done with the theme. Now let's move on to activity. Now I forget one thing, which is the dependency I will be using. So go to your build.gradle and here. So I will paste here the dependency. This is the size unit dependency that we use like SP and DP. Here SSP and SDP. It will give the responsiveness to the layout. Now let's close this and go to main activity. So here first we will give a background image. So for image we use this image view. Let's give it a match parenthesis and let's give it a scale type which is center crop, and also the source will be illustration. Now let's close this. Now let's create a linear layout. Give it a match parenthesis. Orientation will be vertical. By default it is horizontal, and also let's give it a gravity of center. Now let's close this. So inside this linear layout I will be creating a chromometer. So width will be like 250 SDP. Now you can see that it has different size, like it is a dimension /250 SDP, while by default it is like 250 dp. I will explain it later. Now let's give it a size 60 SSP. Also let's change the font family, which is pop in bold. Let's give it a gravity center, also gravity center. Let's give it a top margin of, let's say, 5 SDP. Change the color, which will be start button color. And the important thing is to give it an ID, which is chronometer. Now let's close this. Now let me explain why I used dependency. It is much important dependency. Let's change this layout size to, let's say, tablet. Now you can see that tablet is much bigger than the mobile phone, but the text, the chronometer is sized with this tablet. Let's say change the size to by default one, which is the 60 SP. Now you can see that it is much smaller than what we have for the tablet. And we change this to pixel. You can see that now it's look good, but when we change it to tablet mode, it is much smaller. So that's why I use that dependency, which is very responsive for every object. Now let's change this to SDP and let's change this to pixel. Next thing we have to do is to create another linear layout inside this layout. So let's create a linear layout, give it a width of match parenthesis and height will be 120 SDP. Now let's give it a top margin of 50 SDP. Also gravity will be center, gravity center, and the orientation is by default horizontal, but also let's mention it. Now let's close this. Now inside this we will be adding the buttons that we will be using to control the chronometer. So for this we will be using a card view, and let's first create a pause button. So card view, let's give it a width of 60 dp and same as the height. Let's say card elevation will be 0 dp, corner radius, which is let's say 10 SDP, margin int will be 5 SDP. Let's give it a card background color, which will be pause resume button color. Now let's close this, and inside this we will be giving the image. So let's create an image. Let's give it a match parenthesis, or let's say 30 SDP, and same for the other. Let's give it a source, which is the pause button that we have imported. Let's give it a gravity center. Now we have created the pause button. Now it's time to create the start button. So for this, let's write a card view. Let's give it a width of 80 SDP and height will be 120 SDP. Card background will be start button color. Card elevation will be 0 dp. Corner radius, which is 10 SDP. Also margin layout horizontal will be 20 SDP. Now let's close this, and inside this let's create an image. Let's give it a width and height of 30 SDP. Let's give it a gravity center, and source is pause resume, which we will be giving a resume. Let's close this, and you can see that we have created two buttons. Now it's time for creating the last one, which is the reload. Let's create a card view. Now let's give it a 60 SDP, same as the corner radius will be 10 SDP. Card elevation is 0 dp. Card background color is the same as the resume. Let's give it a margin start, which is 5 dp. Now let's close this, and inside this gravity will be center, and source is reload button, which is reload. Now let's close this. Now as you can see that our design is ready. So we have successfully designed the app. So in next video we will be coding in Java for Stopwatch app, and if you are new to this channel, please don't forget to subscribe, and see you in the next video.